Ah, that dreaded orange glow on your dashboard, the check engine light. It's a universal symbol for a coming headache and, let's be honest, an unexpected bill. But here's the thing. That light is just your car trying to talk to you. And today, we're going to translate one of its most common and most misunderstood messages. We're going to crack the P0420 code and turn that anxiety into actual knowledge. So you do the right thing. You plug in a little code reader and bam, that's what pops up. P0420. And your heart just sinks, right? You've probably heard the stories, maybe you've Googled it, and your mind immediately jumps to the absolute worst case scenario. And this right here, this is the central myth we are busting today. The common fear is that P0420 is a death sentence for your catalytic converter, a guaranteed four-figure repair bill, but the reality? That code is not a final diagnosis. Think of it as the first clue in a mystery. It's a symptom, and the real culprit? Well, it could be something much simpler and a whole lot cheaper to fix. So, to solve this little automotive mystery, our first step has to be understanding the message itself. What is your car actually trying to tell you when it throws a P0420 code? Let's break it down. Okay, so officially, P0420 stands for Catalyst System Efficiency Below Threshold Bank 1. I know, it's a mouthful, but in plain English, all it means is that your catalytic converter isn't cleaning your exhaust as well as it's supposed to. And that Bank 1 part, that just tells you which side of the engine has the issue, since a lot of V-shaped engines have two converters, one for each bank of cylinders. It really all boils down to this number, 95%. See, your car's computer, its brain, is programmed with a very specific expectation. It expects that catalytic converter to be at least 95% efficient at its job. The second that P0420 code pops up, it's because the system has detected that efficiency has dropped below that critical line. But how does it know? This part's actually really clever. It uses what's basically a two-person inspection team, your oxygen sensors. The front O2 sensor, that's like the first inspector. It measures the raw, dirty exhaust going into the converter. The rear sensor is like quality control, measuring the nice, clean exhaust coming out. The car's computer just compares their two reports. If the reports look too similar, it knows the converter in the middle isn't doing its job. Simple as that. All right, so now that we know what the code actually means, we can officially start our investigation. And just like any good mystery, there is a lineup of usual suspects. It is rarely as simple as just blaming the most obvious one. Of course, a failing catalytic converter is on the list. But hold on. It could just be a faulty O2 sensor sending a bad report. Or it could be an exhaust leak somewhere, letting extra air in and totally confusing the sensors. And this last one is critical. It could be a deeper engine problem, like a misfire that's dumping raw, unburnt fuel into the exhaust and literally cooking the converter from the inside out. And that's a huge clue, because those kinds of problems will almost always trigger their own separate error codes. So, how do we sort through this list of suspects? It's simple. We don't guess. We play detective. It's time to open up the diagnostic toolkit and just follow the clues, one logical step at a time. Here is the four-step framework, the exact process a good mechanic would use. First, and I can't stress this enough, we check for any other error codes. Second, we get our hands dirty and do a physical inspection for exhaust leaks. Third, we hook up a scanner and look at the live data from those O2 sensors. And only then, as the very final step, do we start directly testing the converter itself. Let's be really clear about this. Step 1 is absolutely non-negotiable. If you have other codes sitting there with the P0420, especially for things like an engine misfire or a fuel mixture problem, you have to fix those first. Why? Because fixing that root problem will very often make the P0420 code just go away on its own because you've stopped whatever was poisoning the converter in the first place. Now for step 2, you're just using your eyes and your ears. An exhaust leak, even a tiny one, can completely throw off those O2 sensor readings. So with the engine running, you want to listen really carefully for any weird hissing or ticking sounds coming from the exhaust system. Then look for a little black soot trails around any joints or flanges. A leak right before or near one of the sensors is a classic reason for a false P0420 code. Okay, this is where we can actually see what the car's computer sees. If you use a scan tool that shows live data, you can watch the O2 sensors work in real time. Normally, that front sensor graph should be jumping all over the place, up and down, rich and lean. A healthy rear sensor, sitting after a working converter, should show a much flatter, more stable line. But look at what happens in a P0420 condition. The rear sensor just starts copying the front one. That is the smoking gun. It proves the exhaust isn't getting cleaned. So if all of that checks out, you finally move to step 4. A huge sign of a clogged, dying converter is a serious loss of power. The car just feels sluggish, like it can't breathe out properly. A mechanic might use an infrared thermometer to check the temperature. A healthy converter should be hotter on the outlet side than the inlet. If it's the other way around, with a ton of heat building up before the converter, that's a massive red flag that it's clogged up inside and failing. So it's only after we've systematically ruled out every other suspect, right? No other codes, no leaks, and the sensors are reporting correctly. Only then can we finally confidently condemn the converter itself. This really is and should be the last resort. And please remember this. This might be the most important takeaway. If an engine problem killed your original converter, it will absolutely kill the brand new one you just paid for. Replacing the converter without fixing the real problem is it's like patching a leaky roof in the middle of a hurricane. It's pointless. And a final, friendly word of warning, you're going to see cheap fixes for this online. Things like little spacers that pull the rear O2 sensor out of the exhaust stream, or electronic doodads that trick the computer. These things don't fix anything. All they do is blindfold your car's computer so it can't see the problem anymore. Meanwhile, your car is still polluting, and you're ignoring the root issue that could be doing some serious, expensive damage to your engine. So the next time you see that check engine light, try not to just see it as a problem. See it as a message. It's a clue in a puzzle. That P0420 code isn't a verdict. It's an invitation to investigate, to understand, and to actually listen to what your car is trying to tell you.